Hi friends, in this video we will be discussing about one more interesting multi-candlestick pattern, that is morning star pattern and evening star pattern. Okay, so before we actually discuss about this pattern, so sometimes in market we might have heard like there is a gap up in the stock, okay, or there is a gap down in the stock. So let us try to first understand what is this gap up opening and gap down opening. Okay, all right. So friends, so let us try to understand this gap up opening in a very simple terminologies. So let us suppose I have taken a stock called ABC, and if you see this is one candle and this is another candle and here is another candle. Okay, let us consider that each candle represents one trading session. Okay, so in that case, if you see this candle has a close price around at 100. Okay, let us assume that yesterday this stock has closed at 100. Okay, and in the next trading session, if you see there is a gap, right? There is a gap between the close price of the previous day candle and the open price of today's candle. So if you clearly notice, what makes the stocks to form this much gap and to open at a higher levels? Okay, so if we understand when this gap up happens on a stock is, so let's suppose after the market close, there is a company which announce its results. Okay, so if results are more lucrative, then what happens friends? The buyers are more interested to buy the stock even at a higher levels. Okay, so some good news in the market or some good news about the sector or industry or any specific stock, okay, which actually can lead to even form a gap up. Okay, so if you see here, the previous day's close is 100 and today's opening price is 105. Okay, so there is no trading activity which has happened between 100 to 105 range, right? So buyers are more enthusiastic to buy the stock at a higher levels, so which made the stock to open at even higher price compared to the previous day's close. Okay, so this is about a gap up opening friends. When we see a gap up opening on any particular stock, it actually portrays a positive sentiment about the stock, and one can look for buying opportunities. Okay, so this is about a gap up opening. Now let us try to understand gap down opening. Okay, so similarly whatever we have discussed in gap up opening, it is quite opposite here in gap down. Okay, so if you see here, a previous trading session candle has closed at 100 price. Okay, and in the next trading session there is a huge gap down which actually led the stock to open at 95. So it is clearly visible that there is no trading activity in the range of 100 to 95, right? So when this gap down happens, let's suppose when a company announces quarterly results and if it is not met to the market expectations. Okay, so in that case we usually see this gap down opening in the stock, or if there is any some bad events or some bad news about any company into the market, so even in those scenarios we see a gap down opening in a stock. Okay, so this gap down opening portrays a negative sentiment about the stock, where the sellers are more active to exit from the stock, right? So that is the reason which actually made the stock to open at lower levels compared to the previous day's close. Okay, so this is a very basic idea about gap up opening and gap down opening. The reason why we have discussed about these two things is in morning star pattern and evening star pattern we see these gap up and gap down openings. Okay, so I hope you understood about these two gap up and gap down openings. Okay, so now let us try to understand in detail about this morning star pattern. So as we have said, this is one of the interesting multi candlestick pattern. Okay, let us try to understand some of the important points regarding this pattern. So basically to form a morning star pattern, it actually needs a three candlestick. Okay, this pattern evolves in three trading sessions. Okay, and here you could see this is how a morning star pattern looks like. So let us try to understand in detail about this. So to satisfy a morning star pattern, the prior trend should be a downtrend. Okay, so if you see, it has a three candles as we have discussed. So you can clearly see that this is candle C1. Okay, and the center one is candle C2, and this is a candle C3. So the candle C1 is a bearish candle which actually confirms that the market has been in downtrend. Okay, and if you see, the candle C2 should be a gap down opening and results to form a doji or a spinning top pattern. So friends, as we have discussed, gap down. Okay, so if you clearly notice here, it resulted in a gap down opening, correct? So there, if you see, there is a gap between the previous day's candle, that is a C1 close price and a C2 opening price, right? And ultimately it should result in a formation of either doji or a spinning top pattern. Okay, so friends, if we recall about a doji or a spinning top candle, when we see this doji or a spinning top on chart, it actually displays that there is some indecision in market, right? If you see, the previous trend is a downtrend where bears are in absolute control, but at this price point, so the market is expected to form another bearish candle, but which resulted in the formation of a doji or a spinning top. So this candle says that there is some indecision in the market because there is a tough fight between bulls and bears at this price level, right? So we can understand that the strength of bears has got weakened and there is entry from bulls, correct? But again, even bulls also were not successful in pushing the stock to higher levels, correct? And finally, it displays that there is indecision in the market. Now, candle C3. Okay, so if you clearly notice that again C3, there is a gap up opening and manages to close above C1 price, right? So if you clearly see, friends, this is the close price of candle C2, correct? And this is the open price of candle C3. And if you see, there is this gap, right? Where there is a gap up in the market. Okay. So after some indecision in the market, in the next trading session, there is a gap up. And also, if you clearly notice that this candle C3 manages to close above the opening price of candle C1. Okay. So if we forget about this second candle, that is a C2. Okay, so if you just look at the structure or the pattern of candle C1 and C3, it is clearly visible that candle C3 engulfs candle C1. Okay, so friends, here this morning star pattern actually results, or it shows that it is a combination of multiple patterns, right? Here if you see that there is a doji formation, doji or a spinning top candle formation, which actually results in indecision in the market, or bulls might have taken entry into the market, correct? And there is a huge bullish candle formation. Okay, and there is a gap up in the third trading session, which confirms that bulls emerged into the market and they are successful in taking market to the higher levels. Okay, so this morning star pattern is also one of the main trend reversal pattern, friends. Okay, when we see this pattern at the bottom end of a downtrend, okay, so it is called as a morning star pattern. So here, based on this morning star pattern, one can happily initiate the trade at, if I initiate my trade at close price of C3, okay, and my stop loss would be lowest low of this pattern, okay, lowest low of these three candles, and expecting the market to trade higher level in the next successive trading sessions. Okay, so this is about a morning star pattern, friends. So whenever we see this morning star pattern, one can look for long opportunities. Okay, so whatever we have discussed in the morning star pattern, it will be quite opposite here. Okay, again here also we need three candlesticks to form this pattern. Okay, so here you could see uh, this evening star pattern forms at the top end of an uptrend, correct? And the previous trend should be an uptrend. Okay, which confirms that bulls were in absolute control of the market. and candle C1 again a bullish candle which confirms that market is in uptrend. Okay, and candle C2 is a doji or a spinning top pattern which actually shows that there is indecision in the market. Okay, and at candle C2 the market is expected to form again another strong bullish candle, but instead it resulted in the formation of a doji, which gives a signal that the strength of buyers got weakened at this price point, right? And there is entry from bears at this price zone. Again, there is two possibilities, friends. Okay, before continuing of another upward rally, there might be a consolidation, right? Or there may be a trend reversal and which leads to a fall in the market. So that is the reason the candle C3 is very much important in this evening star pattern. Okay, so the candle C3 actually confirms that whether there is going to be a trend reversal or a continuation in the trend. Okay, so here it resulted in the formation of a strong bearish candle. Okay, where you can see clearly that the candle real body of C3 is bigger than the real body of C1. Okay, and there is a gap down opening compared to the C2 close price, which clearly gives a signal that there is a strong entry from bears. And so whenever we see this evening star pattern on the chart, one can look for short opportunities in the market. Okay, expecting the market to fall in the next successive trading sessions. Okay, and to initiate a trade, one can short the market at close price of C3 and having the stop loss as highest high of this pattern. Okay, so highest high among these three candles would be acting as my stop loss. So as we have discussed in a morning star pattern, here also it applies the same, that both risk taker and a risk averse trader can happily initiate the trade at the close price of candle C3, because it gives a high probability that your prediction could go correct. Alright, so this is about evening star pattern. So this pattern should form at the top end of an uptrend. Okay, so here you could see multiple concepts involved in this pattern, right? Now you understood what is this gap up and gap down opening, and here also you could see a doji or a spinning top formation at the a candle C2, right? And candle C3 is giving a strong signal that there is going to be a trend reversal or continuation in the trend, right? So this is one of the important pattern, friends. Whenever you notice this pattern on the chart, so you can happily go and initiate your trade. So I hope you understood about this morning star pattern and evening star pattern. Okay, all right, now let us try to understand the patterns whatever we have discussed on the chart. Okay, so friends, I have taken a TCS chart here and I have applied a 1 day time frame. Okay, now let us try to figure out the morning star or evening star patterns on this chart. So friends, if you see here, right at this bottom of this downtrend, okay, so what is the rules that we have discussed to form this morning star pattern, friends? So the previous trend should be a downtrend. So basically the morning star patterns forms with the three candlesticks, right? Now let us try to understand right at this price point. So consider that this bearish candle is a C1 candle, which confirms the stock is in downtrend, and candle C2, if you clearly notice that it is a doji candle, right, which indicates that there is some indecision in the market, correct? So there is a tough fight between buyers and sellers, which actually led to form a doji candle at this price point. Okay, and if you see candle C3, which actually opened above the close price of C2 and closed above the open price of C1. So this is an exact morning star pattern, right? And if you see the next some trading sessions, how the market has shooted up to higher levels. Okay, okay. Now looking at the chart, friends, if you see here, there is some resistance at this price zone. So I'm just making this as a resistance level. So when I see this morning star pattern, I can happily keep my target till the trend line, correct? If there is any reversal, then I can just trial my stop loss. As expected, there is a good upward rally, but if you see here, there is a red candle formation. So if I keep low of this a bullish candle as my trailing stop loss, then maybe I could have exited at this price point, right? So let us try to calculate the target and the stop loss. So if I consider that my stop loss is at this price point, okay, let's not take the top of this bullish candle, but let's try to take this trailing stop loss. So which is around 6%, okay, which is around close to 6%. And if I look my stop loss, morning star pattern, friends, so it is the lowest low of these three candles, right? So if I can see here, the candle C1 is having a lowest low, so which is around 2%, close to 2%, right? So 2 is to 6 is always a decent trade, right, which gives this return. But friends, as it forms with the over the three trading session, it forms this pattern, so it gives a more reliable information. If we clearly try to recall what we have discussed about the morning star pattern, candle C1 is a bearish candle which confirms the bearishness in the market, and candle C2 a doji or a spinning top candle, right, which gives a signal that there is some indecision in the market, or there is a strong fight between buyers and sellers at that price point. And the candle C3, friends, which actually gives a strong signal in this pattern, right? So if the candle C3 is a strong bullish candle which confirms that buyers entered into the stock at this price point with a full potential, and there is a higher probability that there could be a trend reversal and market goes upwards, right? But imagine that if there is any a bearish candle formation of this doji formation, then even we can think of that it is just continuation in the trend, right? But before that there is some consolidation, but later it resulted in the a continuation of a downtrend, correct? So this is how we can interpret looking at this morning star pattern on the chart, friends. Okay, now let us try to figure out some other places if we see. Okay, so if we notice this pattern, friends, okay, so this is something closely looks like a evening star pattern, okay, and the first rule that the previous trend should be an uptrend, which actually there here. Now the candle C1 is a bullish candle which confirms that the stock is an uptrend. That looks good. And if you see candle C2, so as per the evening star pattern, friends, the candle C2 should be either a doji or a spinning top candle, okay, but here it is not a doji or a spinning top, but it is something the candle C2 is having equal length of upper shadow and lower shadow, right? But even the real body also has the same length as the upper shadow or the lower shadow. Only the candle C2, which is neither a spinning top or a doji, but yeah, but looking at this pattern, it is something more closely to evening star pattern, right? And if you see the candle C3, friends, okay, so the candle C3 has formed a strong bearish candle, okay, which clearly gives a signal that sellers entered into the market at this price zone. And if you see what actually happened in the next trading sessions, right, there is a huge fall in the stock, right? If we can draw the support line here, because as the stock has already reacted at this zone, so maybe I can look for this as my target, and if there is any rise in the stock in the middle, then I can just trial my stop loss, correct? But yeah, as per the pattern, the candle C2 should be either a spinning top or a doji candle. But friends, even if you see a pattern like this, even you can initiate your trade, friends, okay, because ultimately even in both morning star pattern or in evening star pattern, the candle C3 plays a major role here, okay. So candle C3, if it is a strong bullish candle, you can look for a long opportunities. If it is a bearish candle and in evening star pattern, then you can look for a short opportunities, okay. So a C3 plays a vital role in this pattern, friends, okay. Now let us try to find some other patterns on this TCS chart. So friends, if you see clearly here, okay, so at this price point, what actually happened, friends? for a morning star pattern, the previous trend should be a downtrend. Okay, and if you see the candle here, which is a bearish candle, confirms that the stock has been in downtrend. And if you see the candle C2, which is a doji, again confirms that there is some indecision in the market. And if you see the candle C3, which is a very important to look at, it is a strong bullish candle, friends, and there is a gap up. And if you see, it resulted in the formation of strong bullish candle. Happily, one can look for long opportunities at this close price of candle C3. Okay, if I might have initiated my trade here, and my stop loss would be the lowest low of this pattern. Okay, which is the candle C1 low. So looking at the previous trend of the stock, so there is a price action at this level, right? So I can just keep this as my target, right? If there is any reversal, I can just trial my stop loss. So this is how we can trade based on a morning star and evening star pattern, friends. Now let's take some other stock. Okay, Sun TV. So let's try to figure out either a morning star or evening star patterns on the chart, friends. Okay, so friends, if you see clearly that I have applied 1 day time frame. Okay, there is a huge downward rally, friends. Okay, the previous trend is a huge downward rally. And if we clearly look at this price point, what actually happened, friends? There is a bearish candle here. Okay, if you look at this pattern, so what actually happened, the candle C1 is a bearish candle, which confirms that the stock has been in downtrend. And the candle C2 is a kind of a spinning top candle. Okay, which actually says that there is indecision. And there is again a gap up opening at candle C3 with a strong bullishness, which gives a signal that buyers emerged into the market at this price level, right? Because this price level looks attractive for buyers. And if you can see, there is a good uptrend after this pattern, right? So friends, both morning star pattern and evening star pattern gives a reliable information. So whenever you notice any of these pattern on the chart, so you can happily initiate your trade, because this pattern works for both risk taker and risk averse trader. So that's all about morning star pattern and evening star pattern. So I hope you understood about this. Thank you, friends.